that will void if a player gets hurt early in the game. So there were a whole bunch of voided bets, disputed wagers, refunds, millions of dollars impacted here, thousands of customers.
Whenever I saw that, like, oh, they'd changed the rules, my immediate thought was, this is not for players. This is to protect themselves, because
we know cynic, John, such a cynic, I tell you.
Hello, welcome in. It's Behind the Lines, purifying sports betting, winning with SX. I'm Shane Pace here. Gosu joining us as well on today's show. Movement in event contracts, how books handled the Worthy injury, an NFL recap, and we break down the football week ahead. All right, guys, we'll get into all things of football in a moment, but if you guys haven't learned by now, I like to eat my vegetables first before we get into the meat and potatoes, which is going to be all things football. So I'm going to start things off here with some movement in the event contracts and prediction markets space. This news coming out just as we went into the weekend that was, the weekend that's just behind us, which was the first week of football. And like I said, we'll get to it all in a moment. But the Commodities and Futures Trading Commission and the Securities Exchange Commission are teaming up to take a closer look at these event contracts and prediction markets that we've spent quite a bit of time on the show talking about over the last a few weeks. They're looking to ensure that there's no regulatory no man's land. Exactly what that means, I'm not exactly sure, but we've got a joint statement from the acting chairman, Caroline Pham, and the SEC chairman, Paul Atkins. And I'll just give you sort of what they're saying here really quickly. So they're saying prediction markets, while they have existed around the world for decades, are undergoing rapid growth and growing demand from both market operators and the public. We should work together to provide clarity for innovators that want to list event contracts on prediction markets responsibly, including those based on securities. The SEC and CFTC should examine opportunities to collaborate to consider where event contracts may be made available to U.S. market participants, regardless of where the jurisdictional line falls. All right, so that's kind of what they're saying. Big meeting scheduled for the end of the month, Monday, September 29th. They're going to have a whole roundtable to kind of look at this issue. And I think, what they're really kind of saying here is we need to figure out where these are going to be allowed so that we can sort of sort things out with the states that have regulated licensed sports betting, because there's this big crossover there. John, this is in the US, you're in Colorado, you use the exchanges. What do you think about this?
Yeah, it seems like maybe people are starting to kind of think about how to focus specifically on the sports issue within these exchange markets. I know more broadly they're governed as commodities trading, and then those at the state level sports books have gripe with them because they get to skip all of the state level regulations that the sports books have to go through. I mean, I guess I don't know enough. I'm not a legal scholar or anything. I mean, just because, I guess if there's anything I know about the law, it's just because politicians talk about it doesn't mean anything's going to happen. Right. So I guess I need a little more substance before I really have any new thoughts on it. I think we brought up probably about a month ago now, that one case that was specifically targeting how it was violating the Indian Gaming Act. Right. That seems because it is something that is federally regulated. And essentially what the federal government did when they legalized sports betting in the United States was they essentially said, at the federal level, we will no longer regulate it. So they left it up to the states. Well, they would have to, I would imagine that there'd have to be some kind of concession then to not regulate any specific commodities as they relate to sports at a federal level, which would require, again, a pretty large scale change in the way things are governed today. So seems like it's a long winding road, and we're kind of just taking another turn here and not really moving anywhere. So I don't really know that there's just much news here, to be honest.
Yeah, we'll see what comes out of the meeting at the end of the month and whether or not that can make any news, I guess, right? Yeah. Pace, do you follow this at all? Do you even care being in Vancouver? How How much are you paying attention to how exchanges are unfolding in the US?
I care tremendously about this topic. I kind of relate this to almost like a mini version of when things were first coming out from a regulatory standpoint. Like, obviously, being the founder of In Play Live with Raj, a new state getting regulated was always exciting for us. Things have changed dramatically behind the scenes in relation to why that excited us today versus then and when it was happening. But yeah, I mean, we were pretty active on Meta, which is Facebook marketing. We're not anymore. Got limited by Facebook corporately and personally. Yeah, I mean, we'd hit the dials and turn on the regulation for a new state. So from like a business standpoint, the ability to wager anywhere and in different ways and capacities, I think is probably, as dry as I sound right now, one of the most exciting topics that exists in the world of betting as a whole. So yeah, I definitely am interested in it all. I definitely want to see the free market reign, which of course I've touched on the show quite a bit. Yeah, and just with respect to all the things you just said about this article, you lost me the second you started talking about the legal jargon. So I just I don't really have much to add to the conversation in that capacity. But I actually do have a question for John on the matter, because we have talked quite a bit about what markets are available and maybe how some of them are exploitable. John, did you place any sports bets live this week?
I did not. I probably spent more time looking at it on the primetime game. So I did watch like the end of that Bills game. The market is pretty crazy. So I actually tried to place an order on the Bills money line. I know we took Bills money line live and won that on the Monday night game. And so I actually tried to bet that there, because at that time when we took it, I want to say we took it. I can't remember. I actually can't remember the price. I think we bet it a couple times. Actually, we kept adding to it, but it was a wild number. But I think there's a lot of bot trading that's going on, and I think I mentioned that on our stream.
Yeah, you did.
I think there's a lot of bot trading based off of scraping sports books for more up to date odds. And I think people are posting and pulling positions really quickly. And so if you're just trying to spot trade those things live, especially in markets like that, they're going to have high liquidity. I think as an individual trying to get something in a good number, it's more difficult than I realized it would be. I do know on their site, they actually mentioned that is against their terms of service. Whereas I know there's a lot of exchanges, especially sports betting exchanges, that actually encourage bot use. I don't know how they plan to deal with that, but I guess I don't have any evidence that that's happening. But it just seemed pretty clear to me that, and it's been clear to me as someone who's been live at sporting events, looking to trade in real time with as much of an up to date information set as you can have, that I noticed positions coming and going at an extremely fast rate. And I have a feeling that not everyone who's posting and pulling that fast is at the game. So there's something going on there.
Well, it stands to reason that if you have the technology that operates the sports books in the most real time. So a really good example of that would be Pinnacle. They rarely offer live lines, on real, like bang bang type stuff. Like on Bet365, you can bet the next play to be a rush, right? Or whatever, the drive to be a punt. Obviously, you're not getting that type of stuff on Pinnacle, but they will sometimes have like a quarter market open, and you can see it adjust in a fashion that makes it, I want to say, impossible, but near impossible to do any like pass post style wagering on. Well, if you have that technology, how do you then allow that technology to trade on your behalf? And of course, that is happening. We already know that with our partners at SX. They encourage that type of behavior on their site because they're just pro volume, which lends itself to any type of AI, any type of bot, that type of technology to use their platform. So it totally stands to reason that if you have an edge and you have that software, you could be trading and making a killing off of it. Now, it's interesting that you brought up the Bills, because that Bills game was obviously, from an entertainment standpoint to the public, everything that people dream for in a football game, unless of course you are a Ravens fan. But even as a Ravens fan, you know the game itself was like just electric and also really promising. I mean, the Ravens played a hell of a football game.
Oh yeah.
So I think it was the first time in NFL history a team down 15 with 4 minutes left has won a game. So statistically, from that standpoint, you think that, okay, the impossible or certainly the improbable happened, which, is great. But it speaks to everything we've spoken about on those crazy, juicy end of game lines and what's being offered on the other side. So I was really hoping that you saw some just asinine numbers on the Bills as they were driving down 15. Now, from a psychological standpoint, we saw this in 2 different games yesterday, and I want to actually yesterday, we're recording on Monday, so this in week 1 of the NFL, and I want to actually go through both. When you are the winning football team in the NFL, there is almost a discussion that relates more to being embarrassed than to actually run the play to win the game. And Jim Harbaugh has been in multiple circumstances in his life where the absolute down to the wire moment has resulted in the wrong outcome. Mark Andrews dropped 2-point conversion, the infamous Lamar Jackson 4th down that they went for it when they could have kicked and they failed. And then last night, it's 4th and 2, I believe. And prior to the 4th and 2, so one of the things that we were discussing on stream was, should they go for it knowing that Buffalo has just scored 38 points in the game and they've scored 40? Well, by that time, I feel like the points are almost already moot because of the plays they ran previously to that. So they ran into a wall twice and then threw the ball short of the sticks on 3rd down. They didn't play to put the game away. And this is where the embarrassing element of coaching comes in. You want to run what you're, quote, supposed to do in these circumstances. So run the ball twice or maybe 3 times in a row and then punt it back to your opponents, knowing that you made them use their timeouts and give them as little time as possible back to score. Now, because they did that, Buffalo went on to win the game with ease. Like, that final drive was almost like you knew the outcome before it had occurred. They actually left themselves a potential loss back because Coleman should have gone down. He tried to score and got shoestring tackled. The Ravens' best chance of winning was actually letting him in the end zone there and still having 40 seconds back to score. But anyways, the same situation occurred in the Browns Bengals game, where the Bengals, who are notorious for going on 4th down late in games, punted on 4th and 1, where I actually thought they should have gone on that play. And then Joe Flacco threw a pick on the next play. And obviously the difference in the 2 games is one is 40-38 and the other one is 17-16. But I thought the Browns were moving the ball really well against the Bengals, and I think the Bengals should have gone in that spot. And I actually think that even though they won the game, they're going to lose it more often than they win it, knowing that their opponent has 4 downs to get into range. And that's the real thing in football, is when it's the end of the game and your opponent has 4 downs, 1 extra crack, 25% higher probability, or I don't know if you would say that is 33% higher because it's 1 more than 3, but I think 25% higher probability of converting on any of the plays. That's where the opportunity comes in to win these games late, and why there can be value in these spots on some of these exchanges. And there was actually a third example, John. It was the Broncos game. Sean Payton went on 4th down, in theory, leaving the opportunity for the Titans to get a touchdown and a 2-point conversion back, right? Is that accurate?
Yeah, he went. Yeah, so he went for it on 4th down, and I want to say there was 40 seconds left, maybe, or like a minute left. I can't remember the exact amount of time. It was like 4th and 5, 4th and 6 in field goal range, could kick to go up 2 scores, and instead chose to go for it when it's just, we're not even talking about a 3-point game, much less a 1-point or 2-point game where on your own side of the field where you punt and give them the ball versus going for it to just end the game. He chose not only to go for it, he threw the ball to the end zone, but it didn't even get to the end zone. It was like almost like just a moon ball designed to get a PI call to get a first down. It was a really weird. It was like, it looked like the play itself had actually no intention of being a completed pass in bounds or anything like that.
So
it's very strange.
I guess what I'm getting at there is we have 3 4th down situations, 2 where I think going and failing would have led to massive embarrassment for the coaches where they would have been wrong. Whereas if you punt, no one really questions it, right? So if Jim punts and John, have I been saying Jim the whole time? If John punts,
yeah, you said Jim a couple times, but
sorry
pretty
guys,
sure it's John with the Ravens.
John.
Yeah.
If John punts and hands the ball back, it's almost like, oh, it was 4th down, you punted. There isn't an embarrassment element to the situation. Whereas if he goes and gets stops, he's crucified by the media. Same thing in the Bengals situation, and then it's the inverse of that for Sean Payton. You kick to go up 11 in that spot. You go up 2 scores, and you cannot lose the game. It's impossible to lose that football game. And instead, he goes where you're a hook and ladder and a 2-point conversion away from overtime. Now, granted, Tennessee looked like absolute dog shit, but still, the point remains. That play is getting tremendous drama online because FanDuel posted minus 8.5 at 8.5 to 1 on 4th down, which if you aren't watching the game or if you're delayed in the game, you're sitting there going, they are going to kick to go up 2 scores, and then they don't. Meanwhile, FanDuel cleans up in this spot. So people are talking about this like crazy right now, thinking that there was something corrupt going on. Now I'll toot In Play Live's horn a little bit. We knew they weren't kicking. Now, we don't agree with them not kicking, but we knew they weren't kicking. And this is where you got to credit John. He picked up on it right away. And sports books that properly handicapped the situation based on them kicking, we're offering plus 120-ish, John, right? Around there?
Yes. Yeah. I got 2, plus 120, plus 140. When plus 120 I took because I thought the 10.5, it was plus 10.5, plus 120. I thought, well, they haven't even made the field goal yet. So you could just get a missed field goal. And then we added when I saw Bo Nix standing on the field he took a timeout as the clock came down and he wasn't going anywhere. So it was obvious that they were going to go for it, or at least draw them. And if they drew them, then you'd win
the game's over.
As well.
Yeah. Or, and also important to note too, if they go for it and get it, the only way you lose is with a touchdown scored, which we know Sean Payton would have done if he had the opportunity. However, the right play is to catch the ball and go down to eliminate any chance of injury and loss to your team. Anyways, this is extremely long-winded. But the point that I'm trying to make is that, and the Sean Payton one isn't necessarily in line with these, but in both the Bengals and the Bills, one team that went on to win from punting, one team that went on to lose from punting, the whole idea that I'm getting at is coaches play in a way where they're almost more afraid of an embarrassing loss than a loss at all, rather than just going to win the game. And I'll tell you, Dan Campbell, even though he had a horrible week 1, isn't afraid of that moment in the media, even kind of. And he makes the call to go time and again. And we've seen him walk off games on 4th down when he could have punted, could have kicked multiple times. In fact, we've seen John Harbaugh do it too. But for whatever reason last night, he was afraid to do it. Back to the exchange and why I brought this up in the first place. If you're getting tremendous numbers for there in a situation that I kind of like to call run, punt, which essentially is, hey, we don't want the ball. We're going to make you use our timeouts. We're going to use as much clock as we can, which I support in certain circumstances for sure. Those exchanges offering far-fetched money line prices is an opportunity. So, John, I was really hoping that you had maybe had a few from this week that we could have gone through, but I
know.
Yeah, something to keep an eye on that we've talked about it for like 4 weeks in a row now, but now that we actually have some real evidence and situations where we can walk people through it, I don't know what the Browns would have paid late on those exchanges while the Bengals had the ball, but that would have been a spot that, even though it lost, would have made tremendous sense depending on the price. And just to answer, some people think like, oh, In Play Live had the Bills money line, like bullshit, or like, who the fuck would bet that down 15? We didn't bet them down 15. We bet them down 2 when they got the ball back. at a tremendous price. And we said the Ravens should go here and why. And we said, if we see the punter, we are betting it. We saw the punter, we bet it, we won. The rest was history. So, we had, Shane, one of our best Sundays of all time, maybe. Hey?
Oh, it was awesome. It was pretty legendary Sunday there. Plus 5 units? Almost 5 units on the day?
Yeah.
Pretty incredible stuff there.
That I did want to add that I haven't seen this compared to, but that game was the exact same as that Colts-Patriots game from 2009, where Belichick famously went for it on his own 28-yard line on fourth down. And that was pre-analytics, right? Nobody was going for it back then. He just
People
knew
thought
that,
he was nuts.
Yeah.
People thought he was nuts. Yeah.
They were up 17 in the fourth quarter, and the Colts, I think, just scored a touchdown on 3 straight drives, and he just knew that they couldn't stop him.
Can't give the ball back.
So he went for it, and they failed, and they lost the game anyway. But he thinks they would have lost if they punted. So, yeah.
But think about if the roles were reversed, right? If it was Baltimore in that situation and it was the Baltimore that had come back, there's no way the Bills are stopping them, because that's the way Baltimore played every single down of the entire game until they got into that situation with the game on the line. King Henry fumbles. You know what? It's no big deal. It wasn't that big of a deal that King Henry fumbled. And this is why you're still getting the ball back up to or tied if they score a touchdown. Well, here's the difference. What if they got the ball back tied 40-40? I'm sorry, the game's fucking over. The Ravens walk it off because they play differently. But because they were up, they feel as though they have to play this way to not get embarrassed.
Yeah.
So
playing not to lose. Yeah,
there is a psychological aspect to this that is just crazy in football.
Yeah, that's exactly what it was. Playing scared, playing not to lose, however you want to describe it, right? That you get into that moment where you think, okay, we've got this when we just have to hold on, right? And it's like, but in that process of trying to hold on, you kind of give it away, especially when you're playing a team like Buffalo on the other side with this incredible high-powered offense and incredible quarterback that has led these kinds of game-winning drives numerous times now. So, it all depends on who you're looking at on the other side. Whereas, you mentioned the Cincinnati-Cleveland game, and it's a very different situation when you're looking at Cleveland and, an aging Joe Flacco as the quarterback.
But again, like the Cleveland was gaining the ball really well, and then just either fourth down turnovers or interceptions, whatever it was. Cleveland, I thought, was moving the ball better than Cincinnati was. I don't think they should have punted there, and I think they were lucky to escape with a win. Joe Burrow said it. He said, we stole one.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
I want to bring up another topic from the NFL, and we're going to do a little bit more NFL. Well, we got a lot of NFL to cover off here, but this one was a really sort of interesting one that caught my attention here because I didn't realize that these books had changed policies, and now we have sort of a policy patchwork across books depending on where you're playing at. So this is something that I think a lot of our audience members out there are going to want to pay attention to and maybe check the fine print, especially if you're putting in anything pregame when it comes to player props. So Friday night, the Kansas City Chiefs played the Los Angeles Chargers in Brazil. And I think it was on the first offensive play for the Kansas City Chiefs that we saw Xavier Worthy go down with an injury, removed from the game. He was out. Xavier Worthy, a lot of people would have drafted him in their fantasy leagues. They might have had player props placed on him ahead of the game. You got him in fantasy, or you got him on a prop?
I started him as my WR1 in my keeper league. Yeah.
I had him in one of my leagues as my wide receiver.
That's me.
Yeah.
I'm that guy.
There you go. Well, boom, he's out. We don't know how long he's going to be out for, but it kind of put a whole slew of new policies to the test for the sports books. So a whole bunch of them have these, I don't know what we're going to call it, insurance, injury protection, stuff like that will void if a player gets hurt early in the game. So there were a whole bunch of voided bets, disputed wagers, refunds, millions of dollars impacted here. Thousands of customers that ended up going to social media looking for answers about what happens now, what if. So I'll just run through some of them here. And I didn't realize that a bunch of sportsbooks put these into place. I just always assumed, hey, player gets injured, you're going to lose your bet if you have an over on them, or if you have an under, you're going to win your bet. And I'm not sure how they treated the unders in this scenario, but for everybody who had an over on them, FanDuel, they said that all eligible pre-live, so pre-game, straight bets, parlays, SGPs that included Worthy as a player pop will be returned to the player as a bonus bet. So, okay, FanDuel, interesting. Fanatics refunded. They said, thanks to Fair Play Injury Protection, the shoulder injury triggered a $1.5 million refund for that book on all prop bets.
Wow.
DraftKings sort of walking a bit of a tightrope here. They said eligible wagers would receive a payout within 24 hours, but said that the Worthy related wagers would be marked as losses. So not exactly sure what they're trying to do there. ESPN said, hey, we've got your back, and explained how refunds and voided wagers would be applied. But other books, Caesars, Hard Rock, BetMGM, they all said, sorry, guys, you lost. kind of what I had expected. And kind of the old way of doing things. It's like, hey, you got injured. All right, you either lost or you won your bet. What do you guys think about these changes the books are making, or at least some books are making, and how it compares to the ones who aren't sort of going down that path?
Go ahead, John. Yeah.
So my first thought when I was reading about some of these books changing their policies was it was designed to protect themselves from potential foul play with certain
Jonte Porter stuff.
Yes.
Right.
Players intentionally removing
right.
themselves from the game. Yes.
Right.
That was whenever I saw that, like, they'd changed the rules. My immediate thought was, this is not for players. This is to protect themselves. Because
cynic, John, such a cynic, I tell you.
We know these people. We know the people who've been caught doing this, right? Like, we know the stories of the Jonte Porters that have been caught doing it.
Yeah.
Like, we have to imagine that there are other people who have done it who have not been caught. And that people have been a little more unscrupulous in doing it, right? So, if I were running a sports book, I would definitely want to protect myself against this kind of shady stuff. So I'm not surprised at all that some of those have gone that way. And it just so happens that it's going to work out and benefit the casual player sometime. But you would think that people that are betting overs on a receiver props all the time are probably people who aren't winning very much on your platform. So you should be fine refunding them on a regular basis.
Yeah. Yeah, so they probably voided the unders as well then, right? And you wouldn't have got any bonus bets back. It just would have been a straight void.
That's a really interesting discussion. Did they void the unders?
Yeah, this particular article didn't sort of distinguish between what happened with either side. Yeah, I'm not exactly sure who did what exactly with the unders and what that meant, but I imagine that they probably voided them all. Right? If you're going to avoid the overs, you probably are voiding the unders as well and not paying out the unders.
Okay, so this originally came up with the regulation discussion, and I don't know who it was. I'm certain someone listening will be like, "Oh, it was this situation," but it may have been Aaron Rodgers week 1 on the Jets. It may have been that where they voided.
Okay, yeah, last year when he went down.
No, 2 years ago. He played for the Jets last year. It was 2 years ago.
2 years ago. Wow, 2 years ago. Right.
The Achilles went, and it was the first play. It was against Buffalo or something, right?
Yeah, first.
We hammered Buffalo in that game, and the Jets fucking won. Mofo did us in for the Jets. I'll never forget that game. Oh man, and it was like Josh Allen pick 6 or something late in the game. It was something really bad. But anyways. Let's pretend that it was Aaron Rodgers. I think it was DraftKings that basically said we're voiding. They just took the high road in a big way. All the unders paid out. They voided everything. And that was a big headline. Shane, I think we actually covered it at the time, provided that we were even filming then. But it was a big talk on our stream for sure. And I remember thinking wow, the sports books did not have to do that. And it was a real classy move. I disagree with you, Shane. I think the unders would pay out in this circumstance, and they're doing a marketing strategy ultimately to say, hey, if you're going to bet with us, we're the ones that look after you in these unfortunate circumstances. As you alluded to, there's millions of dollars in profit from simply just following the house rules and voiding those bets. As soon as a player takes a snap, that traditionally has been the rule of player props in the world of betting. So I view this as like, now this is the thing. You give someone an inch, they take a mile. So DraftKings makes that move. Again, we're calling it Aaron Rodgers. When they make that move, it becomes an expectation. So now every time this type of thing happens, rather than it being viewed as like this sort of classy thing that, makes you want to play at their sports book, players go, hey, this player got hurt. I never had a chance to win. I want my bet back. And then they have to refer back to their house rules. So it makes sense that there's some policy written around it now that makes it maybe a little bit more black and white for some of these books. But I say anything that isn't a win-loss, win for under, loss for over, specifically on the loss side that's being credited back to you, is just a massive bonus to the player. So anyone who expects that, I think they're a little bit out of line. Like as John alluded to, if I'm a recreational player, that's just, I would just play more at those sites, especially if that's the kind of stuff that I'm betting on. Now, player prop unders are very rarely bet on, so I'm sure that they wouldn't have had to pay out too much on that side relative to the overside.
So I think I'm siding with the Caesars Hard Rock MGM side of things here, where, you know what, you make your bet,
yep,
and they go out with an injury,
yep,
it either wins or loses. Pay it out. I'm on that side of things. I don't know that I like these sort of policies that are like, oh, well, if this happens, then that, and maybe we'll refund you, maybe we won't, maybe this will get voided, maybe we won't. I don't like. You look at it, it's like you placed a wager, the guy got injured, and that's it. You lost, or you won, and let's move on. I don't know that I like the way that they're kind of approaching it there, and I think John might be onto something there, that it is a bit of an insurance, a bit of a protection for them instead. And I haven't looked at the fine print, but then there's also becomes, well, how far into the game do they need to play to say that they had a fair shot at it? You know what I mean? Like, especially in a game like football where, hey, you could hit the over on your receiving yards on a single play. I don't know at what point you say that, okay, this bet is now officially live, or not. I get on the first play of the game. Sure. Okay. That's early enough in the game that maybe, that it's easy to say, but
Shane, you just changed your mind.
No.
But the game started.
I'm just saying in terms of the actual, policy itself, it's like, okay, fine. You drafted this policy. You want to say,
right.
So what's early in the game? What is early in the game? Is it the first quarter? Is it the first drive? Obviously the first play is going to be early in the game, but where, how do you draw that line? And
are we talking about sports still?
Aren't we?
Anyway,
it's where do you draw that? I don't know. I don't like it, I guess is what I'm saying. I would rather just go into something thinking that if the guy goes down and he's injured, then I've either won or lost my bet. I don't want to play this game of, oh, well, maybe it gets voided. Oh, maybe I get a bonus bet back. Like, no, I don't know. And what if they are voiding the unders? You're saying that they're not, but I don't know that they're not. So I don't know. They might be, which I think would be complete bullshit. So I don't know. Anyway, I guess we're moving on here now. What else did we like from the week that was? Any big takeaways? Especially when it comes to the new kickoff. That's what I'm really kind of thinking about. I think we all thought that maybe it was going to go one way, and I think it didn't go that way. But what are you guys taking away from the week?
Yeah, I think my first comment was there was a lot of really bad football. In particular, that the second slate on Sunday was atrocious football to watch. Some people will credit defenses, but and I think defenses should be credited to an extent. But my God, there's some really disappointing teams in week one, and you don't want to overreact to them, but the Detroit Lions were disgusting. We went 4 for 5 on my teaser picks, with the Lions being the one that what broke down. I don't think there was anything worse than the Tennessee Titans. 112 passing yards for Cam Ward is downright disgusting. All 12 of their points off of kick returns or turnovers.
Yeah, that game should not have been a 1-score game. They were dominated that game.
Yeah.
Outside of the turnovers.
The Niners and the Seahawks, I think I know we're high on the Niners this year, and certainly the jury's not out. Going into the road on a division game and getting a win is always challenging. They looked like the Niners from last year to me, not from 2 years ago. Seattle looked like absolute dog shit. Hey Darnold. It was not Starnold. It was Hey Darnold.
Hey, Darnold.
The Patriots hype. Just squash it right now. They looked like absolute and utter shit. The Panthers hype. See you later. The Dolphins. Holy fuck.
Oh,
biggest surprise. The biggest surprise to me was Justin Fields. That Steelers defense, I don't think has regressed a whole lot. What I watched from him was actually high quality, high competent quarterback play. Now, I am not going to get high on Justin Fields because of that game, but he really impressed me. And I actually think the Jets win that game if Garrett Wilson could have held on to that ball, which was a great throw, but a very hard ball to hold on to. I don't know who the defender was that cracked him there, but my God, it was amazing. The Giants, if you're a Giants fan, just go back in your hole right now. The Texans were atrocious. CJ Stroud picked up right where he left off last year. 0 touchdowns scored. There was some horrendous football yesterday. Yeah, and I do want to I do want to throw a couple positive things in there. I mentioned Justin Fields. The Jags, there's been hype on them year after year after year. There's no hype on them at all right now. They had a really solid game. Aaron Rodgers looked good, so that's promising for the Steelers. Oh God, gotta credit the Green Bay Packers. My God, what a fucking defensive performance. Now, was that the new OC for the Lions, or was that the Packers D? We'll find out this week. But what I saw from Jared Goff was a quarterback and a system on offense that didn't rely on his talent or lack thereof, because he got the ball out so quickly. Even the bombs to Jamo, he would get the ball out quickly. He'd drop back, he'd look deep, and he'd launch the thing. He held the ball for longer than any quarterback I think I've ever watched in the NFL on average yesterday when I watched him play. So, but credit the Packers. They looked amazing.
Yeah, I think Aaron Rodgers looked great. I like that you brought up the Lions there. I think that the coordinator change is certainly hurting them. There's probably going to be some growing pains there as the season goes on, but they could probably overcome it. Okay. But you mentioned a lot of bad football, and the totals, I think, went into the week, like the pregame totals were fairly high. I think the under went 11-2 so far with one game left to be played, or at least just on Sunday, 11-2 on the Sunday there.
They're averaging 2.6 points less per game than last year's season-long average.
Yeah, we're only 1 week in here, so lots of time for things to change. But I guess the question here is we thought that with the new NFL kickoff rule that there might be more points, and I think perhaps the books on the initial lines thought that. Now, do we think though that it was simply a matter of just bad football and perhaps rusty offenses, that just contributed to the lower scoring, and that we didn't really see the impact of the kickoff? John, what do you think?
Yeah, I think that's probably right. I think there were quite a few long returns. I'd actually have to see the stats, but I do want to say that somebody said that the average starting position off of a kickoff was the 31-yard line, which would have been the last year it was the 29-yard line. Which is interesting because the touchback was the 30s. So that meant people last year were actually returning the ball less than the touchback, which this year you would assume that that's definitely the case because the touchback's at the 35. But I think there were multiple large returns. I know just in that Broncos game, excuse me, I think there were 3 or 4 returns out close to the 50. And that was a low scoring game. So I think what you saw is like really putrid offense. A lot of bad quarterbacks, there's more bad quarterbacks than good quarterbacks. I have just anecdotal. I have a buddy who's a Cowboys fan and he hates Dak Prescott. And I'm like, Dak's like a top 10 quarterback in this league. And he's like, that's impossible. I'm like, well, just start naming quarterbacks that are better, and that's just kind of how hard it is to get competent quarterback play right now. And the defenses are very sophisticated, more sophisticated than they've ever been. So I think that's a big part of it. And that's why the league wants teams to start further up the field, because all these bad quarterbacks have a hard time scoring. It's as simple as that. So, yeah, I mean, like you said, the Titans scored all their points off turnovers. If the Broncos had never turned the ball over, the Titans would have no points in that game.
Yep.
So, yeah.
I'm glad you brought up the Cowboys because I was trying to find positives, and I did list a few. I only looked at Sunday. Positives. My God, the Chargers played a hell of a game.
Yeah.
That felt like every other Chiefs game where you were just waiting for some bullshit to happen and the Chiefs walk it off. You were just waiting for it.
It almost happened. I mean,
credit two things. I watched Mahomes get hit on a slide. He looked at the ref. He didn't throw his hands up and whine like he always does, and the refs didn't throw a flag. So credit the officiating in that game. It was incredible. And fucking credit Justin Herbert, the Air Bear. He was incredible.
Yeah.
And
really
now
good.
I kept saying Jim. Now credit Jim Harbaugh. He outcoached the shit out of Andy Reid in that game. The Chargers looked incredible. The Cowboys looked incredible. If you take away those drops from those receivers on absolute dimes from Dak Prescott, the Cowboys win that game. The Cowboys looked amazing. So I am a huge advocate for coaching in this league. I would argue more than any other professional sport. I'll never forget watching Steve Kerr not coach a game because he was so mad at the players for their previous game. He was so mad at them. So he said, I'm not coaching you today. He boycotted them. They won by 40. So tell me that the coaching mattered in the NBA. It matters. But when a coach does that and the player responds is like, it's all good, we got this, you can't do that in football. I'm sorry. You just can't. And when you watch Alabama play in week 1 of college football against FSU, and you just imagine Nick Saban being there and you just go, this simply would not happen. You recognize how impactful coaches are. So Fat Mike no longer being with the Cowboys and watching whom I don't even know the guy's fucking name. He's the OC from
Brian
the previous
Schottenheimer.
years. Thanks. John knows everything. Watching that guy come in and honestly, like totally change that offense. Are the Eagles weaker on D? Well, you could argue the whole Spitgate bullshit. You know, it's one player, but that's a pretty significant player. Are the Eagles weaker on D? I don't necessarily think they are. I think the Cowboys look like a team that's ready to make the playoffs this year.
Yeah, the Cowboys look great. Even though they lost in that game, they certainly look like a team that can compete and might be better than a lot of people expected them to be.
Yeah.
Okay, grind time. Let's get to it. Yeah, right? Let's get into it. We'll start with the NFL, of course. John, are we going to go through every game, or where do you want to start here? Do you want to go to the Thursday nighter and just pick up with the Thursday nighter and then maybe pick a few from Sunday that you're looking at?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
It's actually a pretty disgusting slate this week. There's a lot of bad games. So we'll just skip over quite a few of those. Like nobody wants to talk about like the Panthers Cardinals game. I mean, that's disgusting. So let's just start with Thursday night. So we actually have a good one. Commandos at the Packers.
I love this game.
What a gauntlet start for the Packers schedule, hey? Even though they get them both at home, like Lions Mandos is a tough 2 weeks. Yeah.
So Packers look really good. So that the line right now, Packers -3.5. That's what I make it. So nothing for me on a side there. I do like the under in this game. I think both of those defenses looked really good in week 1. I think you're kind of getting one of those higher inflated totals, like a prime time, especially short
48
week.
It's high.
48.5. Yeah, the under in that game I like quite a bit. Last week I gave out the under in the Chiefs Chargers game. If you actually waited to get the best number, you would have won because it landed on 48. So unfortunately at the time this podcast came out that lost, but 48.5, 48 is like a really good key number in the NFL. You're going to see a lot of games land on that. So I like that a lot. And then moving on to Sunday, I'll just go ahead and start with the big game. Eagles at the Chiefs Super Bowl rematch. Eagles currently favored by 1.5 points in Kansas City. I think a lot of people have just already left the Chiefs for dead. So I'll happily take that corpse and put some money on it.
Yeah.
So I'll take the Chiefs money line at plus money.
All right. I like it.
There's a rule. There's a rule in football, guys. It's the simplest rule that exists, and it is: if you have plus money on Mahomes, you just take it. Period.
It's pretty easy. Yeah.
Yep.
Pretty easy call there. I like that. Plus the Philly going and playing on the road, non-conference road game. You got to like the home team there. Yeah.
So now we have no choice but to kind of get into a little bit of trash. So the first piece of trash I really like.
Really, are we already into the trash? That's it. We have one game that we like.
I mean, that's pretty much it. We're already into the trash, but there's gold in that trash.
There's some tough road favorites and things like that. It's an interesting week for sure.
Yeah. So Browns at the Ravens. You can actually get 13.5 right now on the Browns, which is hilarious. It's the second week of the season in a divisional game, and they're already posting close to 2 touchdown lines. The Browns outgained the Bengals 327 to 141 yards. The Bengals had 2 yards in the second half of that game.
Bengals were that
2
bad.
2 yards.
That's again back to the fourth down discussion.
The Browns turned the ball over twice in the fourth quarter and missed a field goal, and they lost the game by 1. So the Browns should have won that game time and time over. I don't think the Browns are very good. I have the under on their win total, but 13.5 after an emotional loss like that from the Ravens on a Sunday night. That's too many points. So give me the Browns there. Bears Lions. So right now the Lions are laying 6 to the Bears. I think it should be 4. I actually think the Bears are going to win. So we're recording this on Monday. By the time you hear this on Wednesday, this line will probably be different based on the Monday night outcome. I think the Bears are going to win the Monday night game. So I already took Bears +6 just because I think that line's going to go down when they do win the game against the Vikings.
Look at Shane's face.
We'll see.
It's a little sad.
I think I'm already seeing the line has moved, John, to 4.5, which is kind of what you're saying that you've made it, right?
Yeah, let me check. I'm pretty sure I just bet +6 like an hour ago. So let me I'll double check that. But I'll just go ahead and move on to the next one.
But that's kind of what you expect it to be, right? So you've grabbed +6.
Yes, I have +6.
Okay,
and it has moved, John.
It has moved. Okay, yeah.
Okay, so do you like 4.5?
I would. No, I don't really like 4.5. I like the 6.
You like the 6?
So I would pass.
So you got in good there. You feel good about that spot.
Yeah. So we'll move on from that one. We'll forget about that one. Nobody wants to watch that anyway. Giants at Cowboys. I make this Cowboys -5. You can get a +6 on the Giants right now. I like that +6 in a divisional game. I think like what Pace said, the Cowboys did look good and the Giants looked terrible. And I've been fading the Giants a lot because somehow their win total went up by almost a full win because Jackson Dart looked competent in the preseason and he's not even playing. So I keep
amazing.
Betting against them. We talked about this one on the podcast last week, said the line is moved under 7 because Jackson Dart was good and he's not playing in the game against the Commanders. And they were not competitive in that game with Russell Wilson. So, but 6 points on the road or against the Cowboys, I think is a little too much. I'm not totally sold on this Cowboys team, especially defensively. So I think if the Giants can find something, they can do it in that game. So +6, I like there. Bills at Jets. The Bills laying over a touchdown on the road at the Jets after that comeback win. Again, an emotional win, shortish week. I like the +7.5 on the Jets. I do make it about 7, but again, I got to kind of factor in how draining that game probably was for them on Sunday night. So I like that Jets +7.5 there. And then one of the worst games of the week, Patriots at the Dolphins. The Dolphins favored -1.5 right now. I like the under 45.5 in that game. The Patriots offense looked terrible against the Raiders. And I think the Raiders have a decent defensive line. I don't know how they couldn't throw the ball though.
It's their year, John. Raiders, it's their year.
I think the Raiders are good. I think
Super Bowl bound.
Yeah, I do think the Raiders are good. But that's a good teaser spot too. I like the Patriots +7.5 there. I don't know how the Dolphins should beat anybody by more than a touchdown based on what I watched in that game. So that's what I like in the NFL this week. All right.
Love it. Moving on to college. Is there anything on the college side that you're paying attention to?
Yeah, we'll just talk about a couple. Well, there's 3 ranked matchups we'll talk about, and then just 2 other games. So the first one, Miami hosting South Florida. South Florida off that huge road win, one of the best wins in program history against Florida last week. Gave out Florida on the podcast. What a terrible, terrible call. Lost outright as a 17-point favorite. Billy Napier's probably going to get fired halfway through the season. But I'm going back to the well against South Florida this week. I like Miami minus 16.5 at home. I think it should be a 3-touchdown game. Miami had a bye this past week, fully rested. So really tough to ask South Florida to not just win, but just stay competitive against these two teams back-to-back weeks. So that's really tough. So I like Miami minus 16.5 there. Georgia at Tennessee. I've been talking about this on stream for a while and in Discord. I know a couple guys in our group have the tickets that I do. I was betting Tennessee before the season at plus 8.5. That line's down to 3.5. I think it's going to go under a field goal now.
You started betting this before the season. You circled this game and you were like, I've got to place a wager on it.
Yes, I did. Yes, because the line made no sense. It was off the rest of the market by almost a touchdown. So I make this game under a field goal at close to a pick, which is going to surprise a lot of people, but that number is going to keep moving. So I still like Tennessee plus 4, and you definitely have to take their money line because I think they win outright at home there against Georgia. And the next game, Texas A&M at Notre Dame. Notre Dame minus 6.5 right now. I make it close to 10. I'd take Notre Dame minus 6.5. I think you're getting a little value on them because they lost to a good Miami team on the road. So I like Notre Dame minus 6.5. And then a couple other games. So the backyard brawl, Pitt at West Virginia. Pat Narduzzi at Pitt ruined us on the podcast last week. They were up 21 with 2 minutes left, and he ran hurry up from his own 30-yard line to go and cover the minus 21.5 and dust our plus 21.5 that I gave out on the podcast.
Right.
So backyard brawl that I don't have anything on this game yet. I just think it's going to get to Pitt minus 7, in which case I'll take West Virginia because they lost outright to Ohio last week. But I think that's too many points. Fun fact, backyard brawl was the very first college football game ever broadcast on national radio in the United States over 100 years ago.
Wow. Pretty cool.
And then the other game that I like the under in Texas Tech, Oregon State. So Texas Tech goes to Utah to start conference play next week in a game that may just honestly decide that conference at the beginning of conference play. And then Oregon State plays Oregon next week in the Civil War. So I just think neither of those teams are going to care much about this game. It's just going to be a lot of vanilla. Take the under in that game. It's really high too. It's like 63.5. Wow. So I like the under there.
That Oregon State quarterback he is so bad.
Oh, they're terrible. Yeah. So the sweatiest part will be if Texas Tech scores like 45 points in the first half.
Right.
Yeah, it's not Patrick Mahomes.
They have no reason to care about this game because that game against Utah next week, it really might decide that conference, or at least who goes to that championship game.
All right. Pacer, when we did NFL there, we skipped over teasers. Did you have a teaser yet, or are you still working it out?
Well, the thing that's tricky is that I have some rules in my teasers, and it's like just total bullshit, stupidity. I kind of mentioned the Bears last week, and I was correct. The Vikings went on to thump them on Monday Night Football. So
yeah, exactly.
That way we can't be wrong, right? One of us is going to be right. So like the Mandos on Thursday night, in my eyes, is just a beautiful teaser spot. But now, because of my like never bet against the Lions rule kind of thing, I've thrown that rule in the garbage, and now I'm going, are the Packers that good, or do the Lions suck? And I don't have the answer for that, so that makes me just want to pass on that game. However, that one does make sense.
Okay.
The next one that I like is Baltimore, if you can get them down to 5.5, which some lines are there right now.
Mm-hmm.
I do kind of have a lack of interest in these massive spreads. So that to me is like ultimately I lean to a pass. So there's a lot of games that make sense on the road, like the Rams and the Bills, but I never ever do those 6.5s on the road. Never. So those are all passes for me. The Cowboys are the next one that really makes sense to me, and that's one I would actually take. So you can get the Cowboys to 0. So I really like that teaser leg. Niners, another perfect example of the road favorite where it makes sense, I guess, but I'm not taking. Seahawks, a plus that makes sense, not taking. Cardinals, a minus that makes sense. I'm not sold on them, and I'm not bought out on the Panthers. I think the Panthers can still do some damage in this league, so I need to see a little bit more there. The Colts at home is a really good spot. I think there's a little bit of a flash in the pan from this past week and how strong they looked. I'm not betting on the Colts, so that is a pass for me as well. If the Chiefs get to 7.5, right now I'm looking at +1. But if the Chiefs get to 7.5 or 8.5, that will definitely be my second leg, without question. And then the third one, and I just can't do it again, is the Raiders again are in a really good spot for a teaser. Monday night doubleheader, they're the second game, +3.5 right now. That makes a lot of sense at home. So why wouldn't I take it? I just think the Chargers looked so damn good last week. And Vegas and the LA Chargers in particular are two really, really tough buildings from the standpoint of fans traveling well to those buildings. So they're oftentimes not as home games as we might think. Now, how well do the Chargers fans travel? Probably not the best, where if it was reversed, you would get a shitload of Raiders fans in the California building. So, I think that's a pass. So I'm hoping that my teaser ends up being the Chiefs +7.5 and the Cowboys at 0, and it will just be 2 legs this week. I think the teaser reads were really solid from last week, but whenever you take a 5-leg teaser, it's like any parlay and any pregame betting. You're way more favored to lose than you are to win, and we needed a Bills-esque performance from Dan Campbell to backdoor that one, and it just simply was not happening. So we went 4 for 5 and took the L. But yeah, that's what I'm going to look at. Now, if the Raiders get to 10.5, I just, for a teaser, I just don't think that I could ignore that. And then the other one, sorry, Shane, that really did excite me, but we're recording on Monday. It's your guys.
Okay.
You can get them to 10.5 next week. That's the Viking. Oh, sorry. It's against your guys.
Yeah, you're going to take the Falcons and go the other way.
The Falcons at 10.5 makes a lot of sense, but those Vikings at home with O'Connell and that horn blowing, I can just hear it, and it's just 40-0, and I just no. So that's going to be it. Chiefs +7.5 only if it gets there, and Cowboys at 0.
And Cowboys at 0. I kind of like the Vegas look there as the ad on the Monday night doubleheader. If you can get it to 10 to 10.5.
Well, that's where like again you might make an argument, especially if you're going with 3 picks, to go from 6 to 7. Right. So that could be a move. You go from a 6 to 7 point teaser, and in both those spots, I think that the extra point could be really valuable if you get the Raiders to 10. The Cowboys doesn't matter to 7 at all. But the Chiefs to 7 definitely does.
All right. Finally, to close us out here, last but certainly not least, or maybe, I don't know, but CFL, we've got a couple of double headers. I think it goes 2 on Friday, 2 on Saturday for this slate. First one up on the Friday is Winnipeg at Hamilton. John, anything there?
Yeah, I think I'm assuming that Collaros is out.
John,
I don't
remember
know.
when you're like, I'm assuming Drew Brown is playing.
Yeah. I'm assuming Collaros is out, just based on the line, though that's been wrong so many times in the past. So I can't. I'm not really going to bet anything in this game. If Collaros is out, that Hamilton -5.5 out there, I think is a really good line, because they'll struggle to complete forward passes if he's not there. But I can't bet anything with the information that I have right now in that game.
John, just go into the ones that you're actually interested in.
So our good friends Ottawa +9.5. I think I just have to take +9.5. It actually might get to 10. So I would wait, and a 9 is not really an important number. So it's like anything that's like 7.5 or more on Ottawa, I'll take.
They just beat them.
I know. I just want to wait and see if it gets to 10, all the better. But that line's crazy. I don't care if it's Drew Brown or Victor Crumb or whatever riding his broom. I'll take Ottawa at 7.5 or more there. Then I think Alexander's not playing still, right? He's for Montreal, still not back. At this point, he just may never come back. The Riders minus, you can get Riders -7 right now out there flat. Some books are at 7.5, so I would just try to get the best number you can. But anything under 10, honestly, I would take. Montreal's just been lifeless without him. They're basically done. I have
will
that
also
spread.
add to that, John, just really quickly. If
Yeah.
you do bet the Riders under 10 and they're way up, there's no team in the CFL that has given up late covers more than the Riders. So they're really good at blowing their opponent out, and then they totally let off the gas. So there could present yourself a live opportunity to middle that spread if the game goes to according to the script that I just said. So do I want plus 7.5 late? Probably not, but I might want like a plus 20.5 late.
Right.
In that game. And oftentimes too in the CFL, so you'll see there's a big difference in league, more than just one, but in the NFL, if you have like a 10-point pregame favorite and it's late in the game, maybe, how do you define late in the game? Maybe, towards the end of the third quarter, you won't get a covering plus on that big underdog in the NFL when they have the ball, but you will in the CFL regularly. And with the Riders being a heavy favorite and being a team that gives up a lot of points late, that could be a great live bet.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. And I'll say for the last 2 weeks, we've taken every underdog. We're 5-2, and I want to say 4 of the 7 money lines outright in those games. Wow. And I'm counting Saskatchewan last week.
Calgary, though, John, you have to remember, I told people not to.
Yeah, you did. You said not to bet Calgary.
People better learn not to listen to me.
So I'm counting Saskatchewan last week because they were an underdog the entire week until game day. And then they flipped to like a 1-point favorite. But if you listened, you would have bet that. So pretty good season. Fits 17-12, 58.6%, and 10-6 straight up on dog money lines that we've taken.
Wow, so 10-6 straight up on the dog money lines. That's amazing.
Yeah, it's pretty great. It's a crazy, league.
So we got to take Ottawa money line again.
Yeah, that's what it sounds like.
Yeah.
I heard the announcers call him, and I hope he plays again. The Crumb Dog Millionaire.
Oh my god.
Oh my god. Yeah. I mean, they've won one less game than BC, so it's do with that information.
Okay, so Saskatchewan minus 7.5, Ottawa plus 9.5. Those are the calls for this week. Let's get after it, baby.
Yep.
All right, there we go. All right, guys, lots of fun. Week 1 behind us. Looking forward to a awesome season ahead. And if Sunday is any indication of IPL's season-long football success, holy shit, we're in for a fucking season.
Yeah, that was incredible.
That was awesome.
That was incredible. And just a reminder, guys, any of these pregame bets that you like, sometimes when the podcast first isn't out, the line is not up on SX, but right before kickoff, they have some amazing bets and odds that I've been able to capitalize on all summer. So some of these calls that John likes, you can make your own line there, which is really nice to see if it gets filled over the few hours leading up to kickoff. And then if it doesn't get filled, there obviously are odds makers posting their lines there that oftentimes are better than Pinnacle. And in some cases, they might not be better than Pinnacle, but they create a middle opportunity. And we kind of touched on that on some of the exchanges on last week's show. So you go to sx.bet. All you have to do is enter your email. You never have to verify your account. There is a verification section, but it is never required, which means that, well, it might go against like the legal aspects of things. You can access it from anywhere and not verify. The wallet is yours. So you never have to worry about withdrawing, which is, if you're a winning sports bettor like me, there's winning and then there's the stress of getting your money. That's never a question with the team at SX. So great way to get your bets.
They had some decent live liquidity this weekend. I don't know if you're watching them too much, but they did have live main markets up for all NFL stuff.
So Shane, what happens with SX is you go throughout the course of the summer where at In Play Live, we're really just focused on, we do some WNBA. We're focused on the CFL and definitely some baseball. The live markets won't mesh well, or they won't be there, or they won't mesh well with what it is that we're taking in that sport. When you get to end of game NFL, you can bet at SX. When you get to end of game NHL, we are exactly a month, 4 weeks here away from the puck drop in the NHL season. We went through my wallet a few episodes ago, Shane, but there's a lot of hockey bets live made on SX. So you can offer your own lines live as well, or just take the ones that the market makers are making. So The fact that you aren't getting limited and you never need to worry about withdrawals, you'd be crazy not to be getting money in there heading into this fall.
And like you mentioned, that late stuff, it's there, right? Where a lot of books might not even have it, markets open late in the game and end of NFL, but it's there on SX, which is pretty cool. All right. There we go, guys. Great time chatting. Looking forward to next week. We'll have a guest back on next week. We'll be talking a lot about crypto specifically. So,
nice. Those guys.
Yeah. So there we go. So we'll have a great conversation there. Looking forward to that. But until next week, Pace, John, sports bettors around the world, keep beating those books. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Behind the Lines. Remember to like, download, and subscribe. We are on YouTube, Apple, Spotify, and everywhere you get your podcasts. Have a betting story or want to be featured on our podcast? Drop a note in the comments below. And if you want to join in play live, use promo code Behind the Line.